Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make a tool for snare work. And so we've got a piece of a little bit bigger than a 1/2 inch here. Again, it's a scrap, so I'm not even sure what size this one is, but it's a little bigger than a 1/2 inch because this is a piece of 1/2 inch right here. And this one's a little bigger, so it's probably 5/8 or 3/4. And we're going to, I've got a piece about 1 foot long here, and we're just gonna lock it in a vise, and we're gonna cut a channel in it first on this end. And we'll do that with an angle grinder. That channel doesn't have to be real deep in there because it only needs to be the size of about 9-gauge wire. You'll understand why in a few minutes here. The next thing we need to do is flip this dude over and weld a T-handle on here. So we'll flip it over, get a T-handle welded on here, just like this, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. I definitely never claimed to be no rock star welder for sure. At least not for quite a few years anyway. I used to be not half bad at it, but I did it every day at that point. Now I don't. Ain't too horrible. It'll hold. All right, that should do her. All right, so I took this over the grinder and just kind of bullnosed everything off. We put that channel through there. Now let's talk about why we made this tool. Okay, so let's talk real quick about what this snare tool is going to do for us. First thing we need, we got our tool, we got our trapping hammer, and we got a pair of pliers or our axe. Doesn't matter. Just need something we can hammer on this with. We've got a snare. This is a 7x7 cable snare for coyote-sized animals. Okay, and we've got a roll of 9-gauge trapping wire. What we need is we need a snare stand, something to support our snare. And this 9-gauge wire makes really good snare stands. However, we don't have anything to stake it down or wrap it around. So we're going to create a snare stand with the wire using this tool. Stay with me. Okay, so what we're going to do with this wire is we're going to pull off a length of this wire that we think we're going to need for our snare stand. And we're going to pull off about 8 inches of extra. Okay, I would say that that is enough. That's about the length of my arm. That's plenty. Pliers, again, your multi-tool pliers will work, but a good set of line pliers that can cut heavy wire or a set of fencing pliers is going to do you a lot more good. Now, what you want to do with this, you don't have, this is bent over on the roll. It doesn't have to be bent over, so don't pay attention to that part of it. We're just going to use that end down for right now. Once you've got that length of wire, you want to put about 4 inches of overlap in that snare stake and just bend it over the snare stake just like that and keep it in there to drive it into the ground just like this. So we're going to take this and drive it into the ground with our hammer, just like this. Then we're going to pull this out and leave the wire. What that's going to do is going to keep that wire from twisting, and now I can use this as my snare stand, bend it anywhere I need to get what I need for a snare stand, and it won't turn side to side this direction because you've got two pieces in the ground looped up. Now I can take my snare, and this is just an example, it's a little bit low for a coyote for sure, not too bad for a coon though, and you can use these on coon as well. And you're going to bring your whammy up and put your whammy on the wire, and it, depending on the type of whammy you got, some of them screw on and some of them are just a piece of rubber, and then adjust the length of this to the size snare you want. Screw your whammy onto the rod or onto your piece of wire, just like that. And you can then adjust things as you need to get that snare in the middle of the trail. And if you need to raise it up, you can raise it up a little bit, but you now have a support for that snare that you created out of wire using this simple tool. And that's going to save you a lot of aggravation on your snare line. And then you would take this and stake it or cable it off with either an earth anchor or one of your stakes or two of your stakes into the ground, or you could wire it to a tree, whatever the case may be. But this is the key to this tool, is being able to create these snare stands on the fly. Now, one thing I'll say real quick, I pulled this out of the ground and it didn't even hardly want to come out of the ground. It can be reused, okay? These snare stands can be reused once you've bent them and made them. You can reuse them, just plug them right back into that tool and drive them right back into the ground again if that's what you need to do, or if you need to change locations or whatever. The cool thing about snaring is, and I'm not a big fan of snaring for long-term stuff because pretty much they're a one and done. You can save pieces and parts of the snare, but you're not going to save the cable. So you're going to have to rebuild a new snare just about every time. The beauty of snares is they're lightweight, they don't take up a lot of room. You know, it doesn't take a whole lot of tools to have a pile of snares laying here, a roll of wire, some pliers, a driver, and my axe or a hammer. Say this is my axe and this is my multi-tool. You know, I don't have to have a whole lot to do a whole lot when it comes to trapping if I got a pile of snares. Okay guys, now that gives us just about every tool we could possibly need to set any type of trap, modern trap, that we want to set. We can set snares, we can set conibears, we can set leg hold traps, and we can do water trapping with leg hold traps or upland trapping. We've got all the tools that we need made now to do that with. And the only thing we didn't show really on this video or talk about was a set of trap setters for the springs that are like a set of pliers or squeeze pliers. And I've got a video on that on my channel already in this modern trapping series on how to make a set of those. And I'll link that video at the end of this one so you can go watch that if you want to. Other than that, we've talked about making all the tools that you need to go out and start trapping. Now, does that mean you've got to make all of these tools in order to trap? No, it does not mean that at all. Again, you could buy any shovel you want and it'll last you temporarily, but a wooden handle shovel eventually will break. But any kind of a shovel, from a cold steel shovel to a garden shovel, an Ames garden shovel, will work just fine in the interim until you can make something or find something better. Any hammer will work in the interim. I saw some guys say, well, what about a claw hammer? A claw hammer will work fine, but it's not very heavy. If you have to pound stakes into hard ground, or you have to pound earth anchors into hard ground, you need something at least 2 pounds in hammerhead weight. That's the reason I chose a sledgehammer. That's the reason most of the time when you find a ground hogging type tool or something like that, it's gonna have a 2-pound head on it for that reason. You need some heavy weight to be able to whack those things into the ground. Now, you could use your axe, obviously, if you have a hardened pole, like a council tool woodcraft axe, and then use a claw hammer if you wanted to carry one of those to dig trap beds with. But a better bet on that would probably be, and I think somebody talked about these as well, would be like a rock hammer or a masonry hammer. It just has the flat bit on the back side. I've done videos on how to turn those into bowl adzes in my blacksmithing series, but you can use one of those as well to dig trap beds with. I know guys that carry both. They'll carry a big old hammer like that, just a big sledgehammer, and they'll carry that other hammer for digging their trap beds. I find it easier to do it all with one tool. So it's really, trapping is a matter of personal preference. I've shown you tools that you can manufacture or get a hold of cheaply to do any kind of trapping that you want to do. Hopefully this helps some people. Hopefully it helps some guys new to trapping. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to get to them as I can. I do travel a lot, I teach a lot, so sometimes I'm not really good at getting back to comments on YouTube. But I do appreciate your support and I appreciate your views. I thank you for everything you do for our school. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. And I'm sure you think I never mess that up, but every once in a while I do. See you later, guys.